So I'm Jane.
I'm Sarah.
And we're the Yoga Posers. And today we're talking about tree pose. And sometimes when I think about these poses, I think about them throughout my practice. And when I was drinking, whenever my mother-in-law came into town, my tree pose sucked. And I was like, I'm out of balance. The universe is out of balance. And I was like, look at this as evidence of me being out of balance. But then when I was thinking about it today, I was like, I probably was drinking more in anticipation of her coming here. So there might have actually been a chemical imbalance as well.
It's probably both.
It's probably both. But it was always such a good little data point to see whether or not I was in balance, whether or not I could hold a balance pose.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect barometer. And when my marriage was falling apart, I was living in Ithaca, New York, and I had found a yoga class, and I was like, tree pose. I can do tree pose. And I literally couldn't do it.
Are you serious?
And it was probably a week before I left my husband. And I was like, I can hardly catch a ball, but I can stand on one leg for a long time.
That's so cool, because that was really my experience too.
I vividly remember it.
So I guess the message is, if your relationship is struggling and you're no longer able to hold tree pose,
it's over. It's not like, are you still having sex? No. Can you do tree pose?
Yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So Vrkshasana?
Yeah.
Yeah. Vrkshasana.
And I like it that the reverse, the upside down, is handstand.
Since we've been talking about tree, I've been playing with it in my classes, and it's really fun. And it shows a lot. So tree pose, it's the first balancing pose that is typically practiced. And it's the most simple and clear-cut one. You start in a nice Tadasana, and you draw one leg up, put the foot on the standing leg, and then try to balance there, reach up to the sky. And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Nuts and bolts. In order for it to really feel grounded and stable, there's so much more to do with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe we'll start with the feet.
Yeah, the feet. So the feet are so important to be grounded, right? Because this is a pose that the more secure you are in your grounding, the easier and lighter the pose will be. We were talking about tree pose. And we had a little bit of a different perspective on how to wake up the feet, right? And you got to wake up the feet. You want to have sensation in the feet. And the feet has 33 different joints. You want them all to be able to articulate. And many of us no longer have that ability. It also has 1,000 nerve endings. You get so much information from the feet and the ankles for your proprioception, for your balance. And so warming up the ankles, warming up the feet is going to help. You can roll your ankles back and forth. I really like to use a myofascial ball underneath my feet. And I pretty much start all my practices with the myofascial ball when I'm working with people outside of a studio. And I do that because it really helps to awaken the feet. And if you just stand on your feet, then you do the work with the ball, and then you stand on your feet, you will notice a difference in your connection to the earth.
There's even that really famous thing they do in yoga teacher trainings where you take Uttanasana, notice how it feels, and then you sit down and roll out one foot, or you could stand up and roll out the foot on the ball, and then you take that forward fold again, and you'll feel a difference through the entire posterior chain all the way up.
Yeah.
Because the sole of the foot, those muscles connect to the calf, the hamstring.
Yeah.
Same muscle. So you'll feel that release all the way up. And I think at the inflection point of our how helpful is this is the need to awaken the foot because it's dull or we're just not aware. It's literally the furthest thing from our mind. Or does releasing it too much, right? When we roll out, massage, or overly gooeyly stretch things, they're actually a little bit less stable. They're more awake, but you're not getting a stability gain. You're getting an awareness gain.
Right. And you can get the stability gain, I think, by when you're standing on your foot, trying to draw the ball of the foot and the heel in towards each other. Isometrically contract the tissue in the foot.
Like a short foot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wanted to explain that short foot.
You're trying to elevate the arch. If you take your foot and spread the foot long, right, the arch kind of softens, theoretically. And what I'm looking to do is I want you to draw the energy up from the earth. I want you to elevate your arch because the elevated arch is also going to help your inner leg line. It's going to help your pelvic floor, respiratory diaphragm all the way up. And so You can do it with your hand on the ground if you just place your hand and try to like squeeze the fingers and the base of the palm towards each other. That's what we're trying to do. You're trying to lift up.
So if your foot, say, is a size 9, and then you're pulling the ball mounts of the foot towards the heel,
Yeah.
you become like a size 8.5 or an 8.
Yeah.
And so you're literally shortening the foot. It is something that people can gain control over. And that, I think, is a direct strengthening, stabilizing move, which is the opposite of let's roll out that arch where it might soften or go out more. I'm all for waking up the foot. I think rolling it out with a ball is worth the cost because, like you said, you just come back and you work in some of that stability afterwards. And often the foot is so incredibly rigid. If the forefoot can't move independently of the midfoot, which can't move independently of the heel, like if all of that is one rigid Flintstone block of concrete, roll that shit out.
Which one of our teachers said that shoes are basically foot coffins?
I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah.
It all depends. It's all your extreme. I'm spending all my time barefoot. I'm happy to put on those coffins and feel some support. Because I've like eroded almost the entire bed of fat that cushions the bottom of the foot. So anything can be overdone.
Boy, we have different feet. I feel like my feet are calloused. Like I'm outside walking on gravel.
My feet are calloused too, but the fat pad has been pushed almost completely forward towards the base of my toes, and it's no longer wanting to stay under the ball mounts of the toes.
Wow.
And so, and that you have 3 arches in your foot. The inside arch is the arch that everyone thinks about as the only arch, but there's 2 more. The other one is the arch that goes from the big toe to the pinky toe. And so that arch, as that flattens and bottoms out, you get a lot of pressure on the ball mounts of the toes, and that fat pad which cushions it can get pushed forward, and then this gets really sensitive and painful.
The one under the ball mount of the foot when it gets shortened is part of the problem with bunions.
Well, you have a bunion on the big toe and you can have a bunionette on the pinky toe. And so the bunion on the big toe is when the medial arch, the typical arch that we think of, is collapsing. So the more the foot pronates, say this is my big toe,
right,
the more it pronates, the more pressure there is on that big toe ball mount. And then the body starts to send calcium to fortify this joint that's getting slammed. Eventually the muscles weaken, the toes adduct and squeeze towards each other. They often start to hammer and scrunch in. And then the big toe migrates towards the pinky toe, creating this big, large bunion on the side.
But then this tissue becomes short. Right? Yeah.
And so then spreading that out is part of what we do.
Yeah. Lengthening. And I like the myofascial for that. Trying to really open up that tissue on the top and the bottom. And you can even take the ball on the top and do a little like corkscrew, really try to separate the tissue. And then
you have to watch this. So if you're just listening to this, you're like, what are you talking about? Like Jane and I are motioning with our hands and showing things here.
Yeah.
That will make a lot more sense if you watch the video.
Yeah. Yeah, we can have a whole subsection on bunions because I got a lot of thoughts on bunions too. Yeah. And you can definitely challenge them. They don't have to just continue to grow on their merry way.
And then everyone's like, but no, they run in my family. And I was like, well, that's fine, right? We're all coming in with that genetic blueprint.
Right.
But you can certainly slow the advance.
Yeah. And it's much more comfortable when you're working with them. Anyway, back to the feet. Okay, so the feet are actively connecting into the earth. And the other thing is you want the feet to be rooting down, right? And you must run into this with people where you see them place their feet on the ground. You don't see them stand strongly. You don't see them actively driving downward. And the ability to drive downward is so helpful in everything.
Oh my God. Talk about like you want to stand on one leg and go up and push yourself up onto a stair and push into that foot. And people lose that pushing ability of their foot.
Yeah. You can get to that pretty easily by just taking a soft bend in the knee and then pressing the feet into the ground.
And we loved starting on the back and pushing the heel of the foot into a wall makes this a little bit of a different, feeling this in a different relationship to gravity.
Right.
Maybe I can translate that to standing. And the weight placement of the foot and the mobility of the foot is something that we could still maybe talk about if we want, because we really haven't drilled down on the feet in other episodes.
No, we haven't spent too much time on the feet. There's a lot.
Yeah. So sitting either on a chair or on the floor and working your fingers in between your toes. And so you are opening up those tight adductor muscles that squeeze the toes together, as Jane was saying, opening those out. What's funny?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
at toe socks, which are so ugly. I'm really looking forward to someone creating some good looking toe socks because I don't see why they have to be so ugly.
It should be like one of those gloves that have the mitten that goes
Yeah.
over it. So that's what they should do.
Yeah.
So you still have like a sock from the outside. You still have a mitten for your foot, but then you've got the little hidden articulation in the middle.
Well, what I have found is I can't wear socks anymore because they like crunch my toes up. They're too binding on my toes.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, so is it the sock too loose?
No, the sock
tight?
it's like wearing a it's like a
Oh, it's hugging in.
Yeah, it's
Maybe your
basically
foot, maybe you need a bigger size sock. Maybe your feet have gotten a little bigger. I mean, like the feet get bigger as we accumulate years.
I thought it was all because of my yoga practice. That's why my feet are bigger. Has nothing to do with
the
aging.
arch falling.
No, the arch is not falling. I'm working on that.
I mean, it all falls, baby. It all falls down.
I'm gonna let
every horizontal structure is
down. I'm gonna let all fall down except for the fucking arches on my feet. I'm going to get those to come up.
Well, but we can lift that big toe, which activates that windlass wench mechanism.
Yeah.
In that big toe ball mount area, and lifting that toe, it just shapes that arch. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It works well.
It's really fun. The toes are really funny because even I'll come sitting and just try to spread your toes, right? So that's number one, to see if you can spread your toes. And sometimes, not all of them want to do it. Sometimes they'll all do it easily, and sometimes that's a direction your toes are not going to participate in. They're just like not even interesting. Yeah. And I like to think of my toes very similar to my kids in that they're attached to me, but they don't listen to my direction very often. I really want them to
it's literally
put the dishes in the dishwasher, but they're not.
It's literally this little piggy did this,
Yeah.
this little piggy did that, and they're all doing their own thing.
Yeah. But the more you can independently get your toes to move, that's super cool.
Oh, right. Back in the day, it was like, lift your big toe and your pinky toe with
Yeah.
the middle three down. Now lift the middle three toes of the foot and get the pinky toe and the big toe to stay down. And can you lift the pinky toe without lifting the fourth toe? And all this kind of articulation sophistication in the foot. What?
That was definitely something we did before classes became 60 minutes. That requires a 90-minute class.
That's a 90-minute class.
A 90-minute class that's running over. Which we used to have all the time.
I mean, it was like a bonus 15 minutes when you had that hour and 45-minute long
Yeah.
class. Something has really shifted out there that people do not. I don't think I would go to an hour and 40. It's like, that's a workshop.
It is a workshop. I just think, you got 60 minutes. You're like, okay, toes, boom, 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 boom. That's all we got.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's keep it going, people. Let's keep it going.
Keep it going.
They barely got the ball in place. We're done. Switch feet.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah.
But then a lot of that articulation, the toes can help with the arch of the foot and, some of this forefoot independence. But then we're stabilizing this tendency of the foot to pronate and supinate. That's our subtalar joint in the ankle. It's our second ankle joint. We've got the dorsiflexion, point and flex, certainly loosening that up. But then you're doing your circle with your foot and you're working with this tendency to pivot from one side to the other, which will happen a lot in tree pose. Once you're on one leg,
right,
people are going to often have a tendency to go one way, dumping into pronation, that knee falls in, those outer hip stabilizers are weak, or they roll into supination and they keep falling out towards that pinky toe of the foot. Those people aren't grounding through the big toe.
Right. And you're going to see that carry all the way up to the hips, to the pelvis. You can look at your feet and get information for the pelvic floor, right? And if the heels are moving in towards each other, the sit bones are moving in towards the midline, right? And most of us do not need that. That does not serve us because for the majority of people, pelvic floor issues are a result of too much gripping, too much tightening. The tissue is short and weak, right? So in order for the tissue to get long, we first have to take the sit bones and move them away from each other, which you're going to get when your heels are wider, when you're pigeon-toed.
But is tree pose the place to do that? Because I would say a foot that's angled inwards towards the midline is going to be very disadvantageous to balance. So that tree pose isn't the let's loosen up the pelvic floor pose. This is like let's stabilize. And I actually have people rotate the whole leg externally from the hip, and that might translate to the ilium and that sit bone moving in a little bit.
I can see, okay, let's like bind and hug in the pelvic structure,
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was just talking about like
Oh, that relationship.
foot magic.
Foot magic.
Yeah.
I think we should cover the 3 points of contact, 4 points of contact.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like that whole balance on the foot issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gone multiple ways on how the foot works. So often you'll hear 4 corners or 3 corners, big toe, ball mount, pinky toe, ball mount, and either the center of the heel, inner heel, or outer heel. And I've recently come to the place where it's most effective to go big toe, ball mount to outer heel, pinky toe to inner heel. So I create like a lace that lifts the arch. There's a going across the midline of the foot.
Yeah, and maybe for a single leg stance, you're like 4 points of contact. Whereas in some other poses, if you have both feet on the ground, to think of the foot a little bit more differently and try to balance it on 3 points, where it's more like the handlebars at the front of the foot, and then you're on a bicycle or a motorcycle right down the midline of the foot. Balancing on that bicycle with just your handlebars at the front might feel a little less stable in a single leg stance pose like tree pose. Have as many points of contact as you want, people. I would just say the most important thing is to get the center of your arch facing the ceiling, because I've seen people whose feet are literally worn down from how much they supinate or pronate, right? The tissue literally sloughs off to the side.
Yeah.
And they're so worried about getting these 4 points of contact down that they've twisted their foot into supination or pronation.
Got it.
So I'd say what you're trying to do with the foot is get the arch of the foot, the highest point of the arch of your midfoot, to be pointing straight up to the ceiling.
Okay.
I'll take off my sock. If we flex the ankle, as you look at your own foot, there's 2 giant tendons that frame the center of the foot. And sometimes I'll ask students, can I use a Sharpie and put a dot right here at the space, at this midfoot that's right in between those 2 tendons? And that's what you're keeping oriented vertical. So if I were to like jab a pencil, that pencil, when my foot is balanced, it'll be here. And then if I supinate, that pencil is now rolling out. And if I pronate, which is harder for my foot to show,
It goes in.
it goes in. And so instead of these points of contact, it's like steer this part of the foot more vertical. While we're here, let's just show this short foot. Okay, so this is short foot. So here's my foot relaxed, size 9. Now there it is, size 8.
Look at that. That's very exciting.
Right. So that's seeing that change. Now,
And you can see, look how many more muscles are working in that foot.
Yeah.
It's so much more active.
And then here's the windlass mechanism in the big toe, which makes more sense if you're a sailor, and I'm not. But there's a wench-like effect of the tendons that come through here. And then as they engage, see how my arch picks up higher.
That's why you want to pick up all your underwear and your dish rags with your toes.
I will say that the lifting of the toes, it's a very common cue. And again, any cue can be overdone. So when I lifted my toes, because I can supinate so easily, I would supinate. So then I had to, and I realized we're the minority, I actually trained myself to keep that big toe down. And I'm working on lifting this outer arch.
Yeah.
And you'll see my outer arch is collapsed, and I have a bunionette, which I'm sad about.
What a cute name, though.
It's a bunionette.
Yeah.
So when I'd lift my toes, I would roll to that outer edge. Now this edge is flat. So sometimes I'll have people stand on a marker or a pen or a pencil. As we want an arch on the outside and an arch on the inside. And we want an arch from here to here. Transverse arch. Now that's definitely a 90-minute class.
Yeah.
It's so nice to pay that much attention to the feet.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, even just now doing that, demoing that with my foot, if I close my eyes and put both feet flat on the floor, the whole foot, the whole side of the body is more awakened. A lot of people who really struggle with balancing, they overpronate. So there's collapsing that inner arch all the time. So just giving them a little remnant of a mat, or you can use a washcloth, but just propping up the arch of the foot for them, suddenly they can balance. If you try to balance and it all squishes out, out through that big toe, there's nothing there. You can roll up the little mat remnant or a washcloth and put it horizontally underneath the foot. So it's in front of the heel, behind the big toe ball mount. It's just horizontal and just shaping that arch as though they were standing on a pencil, which those people with flat feet do not like to do.
They're really uncomfortable.
It's really uncomfortable. But,
I know.
Lift your toes, lift your arches, try to lift off the pencil. And it just, lets them realize how much they're constantly collapsing onto that big toe. And so even though they inherited the gait pattern, and maybe there is a genetic pattern as well, but like we're all mimicking creatures. You mimic how your parents walk and the people who are around you, whoever they are. We mimic how our family walks.
Right.
All of it coming to the table. Here's your genetic predisposition. Now you mimicked how your parents walked with their bunions, and you never did anything to correct it. And now you're walking barefoot when you probably actually do need some arch support, because at this point you're 70 years old and the progression of the collapse is so far along that like we need to shore it up. I remember looking at some houses like, oh, this house was built in 1700s. You like go into the basement. It's like all these things wedged into the foundation to try to shore it up. I mean, having worked with thousands of people,
Yeah.
it's really optimistic to think that someone's going to come to it with the hunger that we bring to the game.
Yeah.
In terms of the daily diligence of like, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm really going to pay attention to the arches of my feet. Like that's, people are like, oh my God, it's so much.
Right.
They're paying attention to so many other things, and they don't believe. They don't believe.
Right.
I mean, if you believe and you'll put in the work, do it.
Right.
Otherwise, wear arch support.
Yeah.
And that's appropriate for your tendency to overpronate or underpronate.
Because walking's better than not walking.
Movement is better than not moving.
Yeah.
Because people get so afraid of like, oh, I'm not going to do it right. 10% better is 10% better. 10% growth in your investments is amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like anything, it really does help. You can put $50 a month into your savings account versus putting in zero. It's
so interesting because we're having this conversation and we're getting into like such nitty gritty detail on the feet. And then we're saying, but in the end, just keep walking, whatever that looks like for you.
Well, I guess the hope is that the practice will be consistent, because it's not like a one and done. And that's a frustrating thing about this being a practice that you have to earn instead of a pill that you just swallow.
Right.
It's your attention
Right.
to the movement that's gold. Are you willing to give something that's priceless, your attention, that everyone is fighting for in extremely skillful ways?
Yeah.
Are you willing to devote that to something literally the farthest thing from your mind? Most people, I'm going to say no, they're not. And that's fine. And what they can do is they can come once a week and they can work on it in class. And that's helpful because they, it starts to come in.
Well, it becomes awareness, and then they'll start to notice it, and then you can make a little shift, and yeah,
it helps. And if they know that that's why they can't balance, it's not because they're old,
yeah,
right? But it's like, I can't stop my foot from pronating. I don't have that strength yet. If I add this support, this rolled up little piece of material, and now my foot doesn't pronate, and it's 90% easier to balance, I've located the issue. It's not my deficiency, my failure, my age, my inevitable slide towards collapse. It's like, I need some support.
Right. Okay.
And then the rest of me now the hip can do its job. Now the knee is more stable. Now the low back is more stable because you're not collapsing that arch constantly.
Okay.
And those are the people with the overpronation that are going to be very internally rotated, adduction biased in the hip, and unable to access the stabilizers of the hip. Those are the people that, coupled with some decent stability or awareness in the feet, now can you engage those hip stabilizers? Now you can stand on one leg.